the IV line clear! Clear the way! Emergency! Allah! Stay with me! We're almost there! Keep the IV line clear! Clear the way! Emergency! Allah!
The bullet wasn't meant for her. Marcus Romano watched the woman collapse in slow motion, her emerald dress blooming red across the abdomen. And for the first time in 20 years, the man they called the architect felt his carefully constructed world shatter like glass. 3 weeks ago, he didn't know her name. 2 weeks ago, he discovered she was carrying another man's child. 1 week ago, he learned that man was his most trusted lieutenant. And 30 seconds ago, she'd thrown herself between Marcus and a gun held by the father of that child, the same man who'd orchestrated their entire relationship as an elaborate execution plan. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's rewind to where it actually began, to the moment Marcus Romano made his first mistake in 2 decades of never making mistakes. The charity gala wasn't his scene. Marcus preferred shadows to spotlights, back rooms to ballrooms, silence to the clinking of champagne glasses, and performative laughter of New York's elite. But appearances mattered in his line of work, the legitimate side of it anyway. Romano Construction had donated $2 million to the Children's Hospital. The least he could do was show his face, shake some hands, and disappear before the chicken got cold. He was planning his exit when he saw her. If you want to see how a single night destroys an entire criminal empire, hit that like button and subscribe right now. You won't believe what happens next. And turn on that notification bell, because this story goes places you can't predict. She stood alone near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan, and that's what caught his attention first, the alone part. Everyone at these events traveled in packs, clutching their social circles like life preservers. But this woman stood apart, studying the city below with an intensity that suggested she was solving a problem rather than admiring a view. Jasmine Carter. He wouldn't learn her name for another 20 minutes. She wore an emerald dress that caught the light when she moved, and when she turned, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Not lust, he could buy that. Not intrigue, he'd mastered that. Something closer to recognition, like his soul had just spotted someone speaking its language across a crowded room. "The view's better from the roof," he said, approaching with 2 glasses of champagne. She turned, and her eyes, dark brown, sharp, assessing, swept over him with the precision of someone trained to evaluate threats. "I'm working tomorrow. The roof sounds like a bad decision." "The best ones usually are." She smiled, but it didn't reach those eyes. "Let me guess, you're one of the real estate developers who thinks donating money erases the affordable housing you demolished." Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. "Hospital administrator? How'd you know?" "Only someone who sees the consequences of bad decisions talks about them like that." He extended his hand. "Marcus Romano, and you're half right. I did demolish affordable housing, but I donated because my mother spent her last days in a children's hospital, holding my hand and making me promise to do something that mattered. The truth. He'd given her actual truth, and he couldn't explain why." Her expression softened just slightly. "Jasmine Carter, and I'm sorry about your mother." "Don't be. She'd have liked you. She had no patience for bullshit either." They talked for 3 hours. Marcus missed his exit window, missed the careful timeline he'd constructed, missed the encrypted phone calls he was supposed to make. They discussed her work at Mount Sinai, his construction projects, the rot in city development contracts, the impossible mathematics of keeping hospitals staffed and supplied. She was brilliant. Not educated brilliant, though she clearly was that too, but street-smart brilliant. The kind of intelligence that came from surviving systems designed to break you. "You want to get out of here?" he asked when the crowd began thinning. She studied him for a long moment, calculating, measuring. "I don't do this. I don't leave charity galas with men I just met." "But you're going to." "Yeah, I am, and I'll probably regret it." She didn't, not that night anyway. What happened in his penthouse apartment was intense and unexpected and felt startlingly real in a life Marcus had carefully constructed to feel like nothing. They talked until 3 in the morning, made love like they were trying to prove something, and when dawn crept through the windows, Jasmine was already dressed. "This was nice," she said, and the past tense felt like a door closing. "It doesn't have to be past tense." "Yes, it does," she smiled sadly. "You're not a man who does relationships, Marcus, and I'm not a woman who does anything else. So let's call this what it was, perfect and temporary." She left before he could argue. Marcus told himself it was better this way, cleaner. He had a meeting with his lieutenants in 4 hours, and sentimentality was a luxury men in his position couldn't afford. He'd built his organization on cold calculation and emotional distance. One night with a hospital administrator wouldn't change that. Except he couldn't stop thinking about her. For 3 weeks, Marcus Romano, a man who'd ordered executions with the same emotional involvement as ordering coffee, found himself distracted. He'd catch himself reaching for his phone. He'd drive past Mount Sinai for no reason. He'd remember the way she'd looked at him when he'd told the truth about his mother, like she could see straight through the armor to something he'd forgotten existed. It was pathetic. It was dangerous. It was unlike him. And then Devon called. "Boss, we got a problem." Devon West had been Marcus's right hand for 8 years. Smart, loyal, ruthless when necessary, but controlled. Exactly what Marcus needed in a second in command. He thought 3 moves ahead, anticipated problems before they became crises, and never let emotion compromise judgment. Marcus trusted him completely. First mistake. "Talk to me," Marcus said, settling into the leather chair in his office. "The FBI's sniffing around the Port Authority contracts. Someone's feeding them information about the cement suppliers." Marcus's jaw tightened. The cement operation was the foundation of his legitimate business empire, literally. Romano Construction controlled half the infrastructure projects in the city through carefully positioned cement suppliers. If the FBI proved the connections... Drop a comment right now telling me who you think is betraying Marcus, and smash that subscribe button because this story is about to go completely off the rails. Who knows about the cement operation? Intercol only. You, me, Carmine, and Ray. Carmine was 70 years old and had been with Marcus's father. Ray was an enforcer with more muscle than brains. That left Devon. "It's not me, boss," Devon said quietly, "but I'll find who it is. I always do." "See that you do, and Devon, when you find them, bring them to me. I'll handle it personally." After Devon left, Marcus sat in the darkness of his office and felt the first whisper of something he'd learned to trust over the years. Instinct. Something was wrong. Not with the FBI investigation. That was manageable. Something else. Something closer. He picked up his phone and pulled up Mount Sinai's website, found Jasmine's profile in the administration section. She looked professional in the photo, hair pulled back, wearing the kind of smile people reserve for corporate headshots, present but not genuine. He was reaching for his phone to call her when it rang. Unknown number. "Yes?" "Mr. Romano?" A woman's voice, not Jasmine's, younger. "This is calling from Mount Sinai Hospital. We have a patient here, Jasmine Carter, who listed you as an emergency contact. She's experiencing pregnancy complications and is asking for you." The world stopped. Pregnancy complications. Marcus was in his car before he consciously decided to move. The drive to Mount Sinai took 12 minutes. Marcus's mind moved through scenarios with the cold efficiency that had kept him alive for 20 years. Jasmine was pregnant. She'd listed him as an emergency contact, despite their single night. The math didn't work.
They'd used protection, and 3 weeks wasn't enough time to detect pregnancy anyway. Which meant she'd been pregnant before, which meant she hadn't told him. The why mattered less than the immediate problem. Jasmine was in danger, and something in his chest had clenched tight the moment he'd heard her name. He found her in a private room on the 4th floor. She looked smaller than he remembered, hospital gown swallowing her frame, monitors beeping softly beside the bed. Her eyes were closed, but he could see the tension in her jaw, the way her hands gripped the sheets. "Jasmine?" Her eyes opened. When she saw him, relief and guilt fought for dominance in her expression. "Marcus, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. They asked for emergency contacts, and I panicked, and I don't know why I gave your name. You should go." "How far along?" 15 weeks. I was pregnant when we—" She closed her eyes. "I should have told you, but it was supposed to be one night, and it didn't seem relevant, and now everything's complicated." Marcus pulled a chair to her bedside. "Who's the father?"
It doesn't matter. He's out of the picture. It's my baby. Jasmine. Who's the father? She met his eyes, and he saw fear there. Real fear. His name is Devon. Devon West. But Marcus, I'm serious. He's gone. We ended badly months ago, and when I found out I was pregnant, I decided to do this alone. He doesn't even know. The name hit Marcus like a physical blow. Devon. Devon West. His most trusted lieutenant. His right hand for 8 years. The man who'd called him 3 hours ago about FBI investigations. Marcus's mind, trained for decades to process information and identify patterns, began connecting dots with terrifying speed. The charity gala. Devon had suggested Marcus attend, had even mentioned the hospital was honoring major donors. Good for appearances, boss. Show the legitimate side. The timing. Jasmine standing alone, perfectly positioned for Marcus to notice. The FBI investigation, starting exactly when? 3 weeks ago, right after Marcus met Jasmine. "Marcus?" Jasmine's voice pulled him back. "What's wrong?" "Devon West works for me." The color drained from her face. "What?" "He's my second in command. Has been for 8 years." "That's not possible. Devon works in finance. He manages investment portfolios." "That's his cover. His real job is running half my criminal organization." Jasmine stared at him, and he watched comprehension dawn like a slow-motion car crash. "Your criminal organization? Oh God, you're Marcus Romano, the Marcus Romano, the architect." "And you," Marcus said softly, "are the woman my most trusted lieutenant set up to get close to me. Tell me, Jasmine, was any of it real, or are you that good an actress?" The hurt in her eyes looked genuine, but Marcus had learned long ago that hurt was easy to fake. "I swear to God, Marcus, I didn't know. Devon and I broke up 6 months ago. It was toxic and controlling, and when I found out I was pregnant, I left. I haven't spoken to him since. That night at the gala, I thought it was chance. I thought—" Her voice broke. "I thought it was real." Marcus wanted to believe her. Every instinct he had that wasn't professional screamed that she was telling the truth. But every instinct he had that kept him alive for 20 years screamed that trust was how men like him died. Hit that like button if you think Jasmine's telling the truth, and subscribe because you need to see how this plays out. The next part will blow your mind. "Here's what's going to happen," Marcus said, standing. "You're going to stay in this hospital where I can keep you safe. I'm putting security outside your door. You don't leave, you don't make phone calls, you don't contact anyone, especially not Devon." Marcus, I'm telling you the truth. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Either way, you're leveraged now. If Devon set this up, he'll come for you. And when he does, I'll be ready. He was at the door when she spoke again. "The baby. Devon's baby. If this goes bad, I protect what's mine,"
Marcus said, "and right now, whether you planned it or not, you are mine." He left before she could argue. The drive back to his office was a study in controlled fury. Marcus made 3 phone calls. The first was to his head of security. 4 men on the 4th floor of Mount Sinai, private room. The woman inside doesn't leave. Nobody gets to her without my explicit approval. The second was to Carmine. Pulled Devon's financial records going back 2 years, phone logs, emails, everything. I want to know every person he's talked to and every dollar he's moved. The third was to Devon himself. My office, 1 hour. We need to talk about the FBI investigation. Devon arrived 58 minutes later, exactly on time as always. He looked the same as always. Pressed suit, calm expression, the bearing of a man completely in control of his environment. "What'd you find?" Marcus asked without preamble. Devon settled into the chair across from Marcus's desk. "The leak's coming from inside. Someone in the cement operation is cooperating with the feds. I've narrowed it to 3 possibilities. How's Jasmine?" The question hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Devon's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Calculation, adjustment. "Who?" "Jasmine Carter, the mother of your child, the woman you put in the hospital 3 weeks ago with pregnancy complications." "I have no idea what you're talking about, boss." Marcus leaned back, letting the silence stretch. Devon was good. Years of practice had made him excellent at controlling his reactions, but Marcus had decades of practice reading men who lied for a living. "Let me tell you what I think happened," Marcus said softly. "I think you've been planning this for a while. The FBI investigation isn't someone cooperating, it's you. You've been feeding them information, building a case, positioning yourself to take over when I fall. But you're smart. You know I'd see a direct betrayal coming, so you got creative." Devon's face remained impassive. "You used Jasmine, your ex-girlfriend, the mother of your baby. You manipulated her into being at that gala, making sure we'd meet. Maybe you told her some story about me being a potential donor to the hospital. Maybe you planted the idea in her head somehow, but you orchestrated it. You wanted me distracted, emotionally compromised, vulnerable." "That's quite a theory," Devon said, "but I think you're giving me too much credit and not enough credit to Jasmine. She's not some helpless pawn." There it was, the confirmation Marcus needed. Devon knew about Jasmine and Marcus's connection. "Here's what's going to happen," Marcus said, pulling a gun from his desk drawer and setting it between them. "You're going to tell me the truth, all of it. The FBI cooperation, the setup, what you're planning, and if I believe you're being honest, I'll make your death quick." Devon looked at the gun, looked at Marcus, and smiled. It was the smile that confirmed everything. "You really want to know?" Devon asked, and his voice had changed. The deference was gone. The careful submission of a lieutenant to his boss had evaporated. "Fine, I'll tell you. But first, check your phone. I sent you something 3 minutes ago." Marcus kept his eyes on Devon, but pulled his phone from his pocket. One new message, a video file. He played it. The video showed Jasmine in her hospital room. The timestamp read 15 minutes ago, after Marcus had left. A man entered the frame. "Hey, Jazz, long time. What are you doing here? How did you even know that you're carrying my baby? That you're fucking my boss? That you're playing both sides like I taught you? Come on, baby, you're good, but you're not that good. I've been monitoring you since we broke up. The pregnancy, the decision to keep it, your little crisis of conscience, I've seen it all." "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not playing any sides. I didn't even know Marcus was—" "Please, you expect me to believe you randomly met the biggest crime boss in New York at a charity gala? That it was true love at first sight? Here's what's really happening. You're going to do exactly what I tell you. You're going to get close to Marcus. You're going to feed me information. And when the time is right, you're going to help me take everything he's built." "Or what?" Jasmine asked, and Marcus could hear the tremor in her voice.
Or I make sure that baby you're carrying doesn't survive. Pregnancy complications can be so unpredictable, tragic, especially when the mother is under severe stress. The video ended. Comment below if you think Jasmine was in on it from the start. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? This story gets more insane. Marcus looked up at Devon. You threatened your own child. Leverage is leverage, Devon said simply. And before you get all self-righteous, let me remind you how many kids have lost fathers because of your orders, how many families you've destroyed. At least I'm honest about what I am. What do you want? Everything. Your organization, your contacts, your empire. I've spent 8 years building my case with the FBI, enough to put you away for life. But here's the beautiful part. I don't have to use it. Tomorrow night, you're going to transfer control of all your operations to me. You're going to announce your retirement, and then you're going to disappear somewhere tropical and very, very far away. And if I refuse, then the FBI gets everything. You go to prison. Your legitimate businesses get seized. Everyone loyal to you goes down with you. And Jasmine, sweet, innocent Jasmine who got caught in the middle, becomes a witness for the prosecution after her tragic miscarriage.
Marcus studied the man across from him, the man he'd trusted, the man he'd groomed to potentially take over someday. You thought of everything. That's why you chose me, boss. I think like you. 3 moves ahead. Always. Not quite. Marcus pressed a button under his desk. The door opened. Carmine entered, followed by 4 armed men. Search him, Marcus ordered. Devon stood calmly as they patted him down. They found it quickly. A wire. FBI standard issue. You're wearing a wire, Marcus said, which means you're trying to get me to incriminate myself, which means the FBI doesn't have the complete case they need yet, which means you're not as far along in this plan as you claimed. Devon's smile never wavered. Doesn't matter. By the time your guys picked up the wire, I already transmitted everything I needed. The part about the cement operations, the admission that you've ordered people killed, it's already being processed. Maybe, but here's what you didn't think ahead to. I have Jasmine. So what? Kill her if you want. I don't actually care about her or the baby. They were always just tools. Marcus leaned forward. I believe you, which is why I know you're lying about one thing. You said she was in on it from the start, but that video you showed me, that's from today, which means she wasn't working with you initially. You tried to recruit her today, which means our night together was real. Something flickered in Devon's expression. Annoyance. And if it was real, then she'll have no problem testifying about how you threatened her and her unborn child, about how you've been feeding information to the FBI, about how this entire setup was your operation, conspiracy to commit murder, threatening a federal witness, obstruction of justice. By the time her lawyers are done, you'll be facing more time than I would. You're bluffing. She won't testify against the father of her child. Won't she? You just threatened to kill that child. I'd say that changes the equation. Marcus stood. Here's my counteroffer. You're going to tell the FBI that the wire malfunctioned, that you got nothing useful. Then you're going to disappear. Not tropical, not pleasant. And if I ever see or hear from you again, I'll make sure what happens to you takes weeks. You can't... Marcus nodded to Carmine. 2 of the armed men grabbed Devon. Wait! Devon struggled against their grip. Okay, I'll give you everyone. All my FBI contacts, the evidence they have, everything. Just let me walk away. Too late for deals. You should have thought 3 moves ahead. They dragged Devon out. His screams faded down the hallway. Marcus sat alone in his office for a long moment. Everything Devon had said was true. He did think 3 moves ahead, which meant this wasn't over. Devon had backup plans. He always did. His phone rang. The hospital. Mr. Romano, there's been an incident. Someone tried to enter Ms. Carter's room. Your security stopped them, but...
Marcus was already moving. He reached the hospital in 8 minutes, took the stairs 4 at a time to the 4th floor. His security team stood outside Jasmine's room, and one of them was bleeding from a head wound. What happened? 2 men tried to get in, professional. They had hospital credentials, looked legitimate, but they moved wrong, military training. We stopped them, but Marcus didn't wait for the rest. He entered the room. Jasmine was sitting up in bed, trembling, but she was alive. "Devon sent people to kill me," she said without preamble. "Your men stopped them. Marcus, I swear to God, I didn't know. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know Devon was planning any of this. That night at the gala, I thought it was chance. I thought—" "I know," Marcus interrupted. He sat beside her bed. "I saw the video he made, the one from today where he tried to recruit you. He threatened my baby, his own child. He threatened to— He can't hurt you anymore. Is he dead? Not yet, but he will be if he tries anything else." Jasmine wiped her eyes. "I need to tell you something. After you left, before Devon showed up, I made a phone call. I called a detective I know from the hospital. We worked together on child abuse cases. I told them everything, about Devon threatening me, about you being Marcus Romano, about all of it." Marcus went very still. "You told the police?" "I told them because I needed protection, because I was scared, because—" She met his eyes. "Because I thought if I cooperated, if I testified against Devon, maybe we could both get out of this. Maybe you could make a deal, maybe—" "Maybe what? I go to prison for 20 years instead of life? Better than being dead." Her voice was fierce now. "You think I want this baby growing up without a father? You think I want to look over my shoulder forever, wondering if Devon's going to keep his promise? I made the call because I was trying to save all of us." Marcus stood and walked to the window. Outside, Manhattan glittered with lights. His city, his empire, 20 years of careful construction, and it was all coming down because he met a woman at a charity gala. "The FBI will be here soon," Jasmine said quietly. "The detective said they're getting a warrant. They'll want to use me as a witness. They'll offer protection in exchange for testimony." "About Devon?" "About everything. You, him, all of it." Marcus turned to face her. "And what are you going to tell them?" She held his gaze. "That depends." "On what?" "On whether you're going to help me or whether you're going to run." The question hung in the air between them. Marcus had survived 2 decades in a business where survival was measured in days. He'd built an empire through careful planning and ruthless execution. He'd never made an emotional decision. He'd never let sentiment compromise strategy. Until now. "I'm not running." This is where everything changes. Drop that like and subscribe. You need to see how this ends. The next 12 hours moved with the inexorable momentum of a collapsing building. The FBI arrived at dawn with warrants for both Marcus and Devon. But Devon, predictably, was already gone. The men Carmine had been holding reported that he'd escaped during a planned transfer, which meant Devon had another layer of organization Marcus didn't know about. Marcus learned about it from his cell. The FBI agent who delivered the news was shaken. "We're tracking them. We'll get her back." "No, you won't, because Devon knows how you think. He trained with you, remember? He knows every protocol, every standard response. You need someone who thinks like him." "You want us to let you out to hunt your own lieutenant?" "I want you to save an innocent woman and her child before Devon kills them both to cover his tracks." Marcus leaned forward. "He's not keeping her alive out of sentiment. He's using her as bait. He wants me to come after her. He wants us both dead, his 2 biggest problems solved." The FBI agent considered this, made a phone call, came back 20 minutes later with an ankle monitor and a tracking device. "You have 12 hours. If you're not back, we activate every law enforcement agency in the country. And if you run—" "I'm not running. I'm finishing this."
Marcus knew where Devon would go.
There was only one location that made strategic sense, the warehouse in Red Hook, where they'd stored untraceable weapons and maintained off-book operations. It was isolated, defensible, and far enough from populated areas that gunfire wouldn't immediately draw police. He approached alone at sunset, hands visible, unarmed as Devon had demanded via encrypted message. The warehouse loomed against the darkening sky like a monument to everything Marcus had built and everything he was about to lose. He pushed open the door. Devon stood in the center of the empty space, lit by a single overhead light. Beside him, Jasmine sat bound to a chair, duct tape across her mouth. Her eyes met Marcus's, not pleading, not helpless, defiant. "Right on time," Devon said. "That's what I always respected about you, boss. Predictable. You always do the right thing, even when it's the stupid thing. Let her go. Your problem is with me. My problem is that you're both still breathing." Devon pulled a gun, Marcus's gun, the one from his desk. "But I'm a reasonable man. I'll make you a deal. Walk out that door, disappear, never testify against me, and I'll let Jasmine live. Stay, try to be a hero, and we all die here." Marcus walked forward slowly. "You're going to kill us both anyway. That's your play. No witnesses." "Probably," Devon admitted, "but at least this way, you'll die knowing you tried to save her. That's got to count for something." "Devon!" Jasmine's voice was muffled behind the tape. She'd worked it loose. "Devon, please, think about the baby. Your baby." "I told you before, I don't care about the baby. I never did. You were always just a means to an end." That's when Marcus saw it. The slight shift in Devon's stance, the micro-expression of someone who'd already decided to shoot. Marcus dove left as the gun fired. The bullet passed through the space where his chest had been 1 second earlier and sparked off the concrete wall behind him. Jasmine threw herself sideways, chair and all, crashing to the ground but out of the immediate line of fire. Devon swung the gun toward her, and Marcus hit him like a freight train. They went down hard, decades of controlled violence erupting in a tangle of fists and fury. Devon was younger, faster, but Marcus fought with something Devon had never possessed, genuine emotion. Not rage, something fiercer, something that wouldn't stop until Jasmine was safe. The gun skittered across the concrete floor. They both lunged for it. Devon got there first, his fingers closing around the grip. Jasmine, still bound to the chair, kicked out with both legs. Her feet connected with Devon's ribs, and he stumbled. Marcus grabbed the gun. For a frozen moment, they stared at each other, teacher and student, boss and lieutenant. Two men who'd thought alike until one woman had shown them they thought completely differently. "Do it," Devon said. "That's who you are. That's who you've always been." Marcus aimed at Devon's chest. His finger tightened on the trigger. And then he lowered the gun. "No," Marcus said. "That's who you are." He handed the gun to Jasmine, who'd finally worked free of the chair. "What are you—" Devon started. Jasmine shot him. Not to kill, in the leg, precisely placed to incapacitate without causing life-threatening damage. She'd grown up in neighborhoods where knowing anatomy meant knowing where to shoot to stop someone without murder charges. Devon went down screaming. "That's for threatening my baby," Jasmine said. The FBI arrived 4 minutes later, following the tracking device in Marcus's ankle monitor. They found Devon bleeding on the warehouse floor, Marcus administering first aid to keep him alive for trial, and Jasmine sitting calmly with the gun at her side. The arrests were methodical, the investigations exhaustive. Over the next 6 months, Devon's entire network unraveled. The corrupt FBI agents he'd cultivated, the evidence he'd falsified, the years of careful planning, all dismantled because he'd made one crucial miscalculation. He'd assumed everyone thought like him. He'd assumed love was always a tactic and loyalty always had a price. Marcus's trial was different. With his testimony against Devon and the documented threats against Jasmine, prosecutors offered a deal. 10 years for racketeering and conspiracy, eligible for parole in 7. His legitimate construction business would be seized, but his personal assets could be held in trust. He took it. Jasmine testified at both trials. She was 8 months pregnant when she took the stand against Devon, her voice steady as she described the threats, the manipulation, the systematic abuse of power. Devon was convicted on 17 counts and sentenced to 45 years in federal prison. He never showed any emotion during sentencing, except when they read the child endangerment charge. Then, finally, something cracked in his mask. Not remorse, but rage that his own weapon had turned against him. Marcus watched from his own holding cell as the verdict came down. His sentencing was scheduled for the following week. Jasmine visited him the night before. They'd implemented special protocols, supervised visits, no physical contact, strict time limits. But they sat across from each other in the prison visiting room, and Marcus felt more at peace than he had in 20 years. "Baby's coming any day now," Jasmine said, her hand on her swollen belly. "Doctor says she's healthy, strong heartbeat, stubborn like her mother. Like both her parents, from what I hear about Devon's stubbornness." Jasmine smiled. "I don't think of Devon as her parent. Biologically, sure, but parents are the people who show up, the people who protect, the people who choose to be there even when it's hard. I'm going to be in prison for the next 7 years minimum. I know, but prison isn't forever, and I'll be here. We'll be here, if you want us to be." Marcus leaned back, studying her face. The woman who'd walked into his life by chance, or by manipulation, depending on how you viewed it, and had somehow become the thing he'd never thought he'd have, a reason beyond survival. "I spent 20 years building an empire, and one night with you destroyed all of it. Are you angry about that?" "No," Marcus realized. "I'm grateful." We're almost at the end. If this story kept you watching until now, hit that like button and subscribe. You won't regret it. The final hearing was swift. Marcus accepted his sentence. 10 years, eligible for parole, and 7 credit for cooperation against Devon and his network. As they led him out of the courtroom, Jasmine stood from her seat in the gallery. Their eyes met across the distance. She mouthed 3 words: "We'll be waiting." 7 years and 4 months later, Marcus Romano walked out of federal prison into autumn sunshine. He was 51 years old. He had no empire, no organization, no reputation in the criminal underworld. What he had was a bus ticket, $600 in release money, and a dress in Brooklyn Heights.